Hi. It's so nice to see everyone again virtually. You're on Music and Chat with Shirley Ong, and it's a good morning from me to you from the East Coast of America. Yes, and that's where I am. Please say hi in the live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. It's right there. You can see it. And I've got our good friend Gary Mayulo, who said good morning from the USA already. Hi, Gary. Thanks so much for the support. Everyone, don't be backward in coming forward to telling us where you're from. And if you have any questions you may have, put them in the live chat, please. And I shall respond to them as the stream moves along. I was reminded that if I execute the peace sign, I should get some balloons. Is that going to happen now? Oh, here we go. So once in a while, if I do something like this, the things you find out. All right, so we have a very special episode today. We have three good friends of each other, and I feel like I know them a bit more intimately now. First of all, our great friend Prince Charles Alexander, whom we know as PC, former lead singer and multi-instrumentalist of 80s funk act Prince Charles and the City Beat Band. He switched to audio engineering, and his career switch paved the way to a multi-platinum career as an engineer and producer for such acts as Mary J. Blige, Puff Daddy, Usher, and Sting. Our next guest is Troy Taylor, a 3-time Grammy-award winning producer who's worked with such acts as Boyz II Men, Aretha Franklin, and Whitney Houston. He's also a songwriter and a singer, and founder of label Songbook Entertainment. Lastly, our great friend Gordon Chambers, winner of 8 ASCAP Songwriting Awards and co-writer of Anita Baker's I Apologize, Brownstones, If You Love Me, and the theme from the movie Set It Off, performed collectively by Brandy, Tamaya, Gladys Knight, and Chaka Khan. When we last spoke to Gordon, we discovered that PC and Troy had the enviable task of co-partnering on the production and A&R sides of his first album, Introducing Gordon Chambers. Our industry veterans are here to help us better understand the importance of the roles of the producer who makes your record satisfy the collective vision, and the A&R rep who sets the course for your career as an artist. So without further ado, please let us welcome PC, Troy, and Gordon. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us on Music and Chat. We truly appreciate you. Let's begin with a question, and I have given you an idea what kind of questions you might face. So the first two are for Troy with a few for Gordon and PC in between. First of all, I'm going to do PC first. How did you first meet Troy, and how familiar were you with his methods, and how familiar do you think he was with your methods? Had you worked with each other before? No. When you first met, the answer is no, but you might have known a bit.
I don't remember how we met, but Troy, I knew Troy's name, and then we actually had the chance to work together with Gordon. But Troy, were you involved in a group or like a pairing of producers at all? Like, so it's always been just you? You weren't paired with someone else?
Well, Charles Farrar. We were the characters.
The character, that's what was coming to my name, to my brain, yeah. So I had heard of the characters, and I know that you were one of the members of the characters, and you guys were having a real great string of success. So that's really how I knew about you. So when Gordon said, yeah, I can get Troy Taylor involved in my project, I said, okay, yeah, sure, do that.
Oh, so Gordon came to you first, PC, and then PC said, oh, is Troy involved? Or who invited who again for the album?
I probably have to ask Gordon, but what I remember is that Gordon and I were talking, and Gordon told me that Troy was either involved or going to be involved, and I thought that was a great thing.
Gordon, could you?
I think I remember this, that Barry Eastman, who's another producer, writer, friend of ours, and I were writing together, and Barry would have you mix some of our records, Prince Charles, if I recall, for Aretha Franklin. But then Troy was also, and I also co-wrote a song on Aretha's project.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Then Troy and I ended up both working on Yolanda Adams' album on one song, but then Barry and Phil and I ended up working with Yolanda Adams on another project. So I think all of these projects were happening kind of around the same time, and that's what kind of intersected us. And I remember, Charles, I can't remember what records you mixed, but you were mixing some of these same projects that Troy and I were working on separately. And I think that's when we kind of came to each other's orbit, because that was around the same time that I was delving into this crazy decision of trying to be a solo artist, and ask you guys both, with all the humility my heart can hold, if you would help me, dive into these new waters. And both of you said yes, and I am forever grateful for then, and grateful to you for making this time to chat about it and go back down memory lane this morning. So that's how I think I recall it.
That's the story.
That's the story, and it will be on YouTube for posterity. So Gordon, with that said, you knew PC and Troy well in terms of what they could bring to the table. What did you have in mind that as co-collaborators, co-partners in the producing and airing outside, what were you hoping Troy and PC would do for you?
Well, it happened, and forgive me guys, my voice, I'm a little bit hoarse from the change of weather in New York City, just changing so suddenly. It's 18 to 17 degrees today. But so I'm doing my best to be heard. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
But what I remember is that I always wanted to be an artist, and both, I think this is something that Charles and Troy can relate to, because Charles, you've been a recording artist. Troy, you've had record deals as an artist as well. So I had this long, like a decade worth of solid hits and successes on platinum, Grammy nominated and winning projects. And during that whole spell of time, I had always been singing, all the backgrounds on the things, most of the demos of the hit records. And that bug was in me of wanting to make a record. I had some almost doesn't count record deals, one with Motown, one with Universal. The politics, one person at the label wanted to sign me. They needed a sign off from another department. It just didn't always work out. And I really had kind of given up my dream, given up hope on it. But then actually I ended up in the studio once with Whitney Houston, actually, another project that Troy also worked on. And while I was there, I was singing her these notes that I wanted her to sing of the bridge of this Christmas song, One Wish, which was the title track of her Christmas album. Troy also worked on 2 tracks on that album, The First Noel. And Whitney's rest in peace, it's a very inspirational person, as Troy can attest to. So we were on a time crunch. Joey Arpaget was the taskmaster of the A&R person. And he was like, Gordon, you got to get this song done tonight. If you don't get it done tonight, I'm just going to take it off the album. And he was really pressuring me. He was not so nice about it. So at one point in the session, I had to Whitney was, that's a whole story because she was very leisurely in her recording process and rhythm. Laconic sometimes, beautiful person, we loved her. But, I had to be very intentional. So at some point, hitting the bridge, I said, Whitney, I need you to sing this note and, hit it. And I had to sing it for her. And she walked out of the booth, up in my face, and this is like Newark energy. She said, I think you want to do better than I do, baby. And if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. And she said it just like that with all the, her eyes like that. And because she heard me sing full out. Now, this is a situation sometimes when you're in the studio as a writer, producer, even if you can sing, it's not your job there to sing. Your job is there to do a demo, guide the person, but you're not there to show off as a recording artist. And you almost don't want your aspiration of that side of what you want to do in that setting. It's not professional. It's just as a work. You're there to be of service to the artist singing the song. But at that moment, to get that vocal out, I did, and she saw a sparkle of hope or a dream or something in my eye, and she told me that, and it was like God spoke through her in that moment. And then it was like a conversation where the greatest singer of the 20th century tells you that they believe that you can sing and that's what your heart wants to do. You cannot ignore that. So that's why when I started thinking again that I wanted to just go ahead and do this again. So I went to my publishing company at the time, L.A. Reid's publishing company, rest in peace, Shakir Stewart, who ran the publishing company. Excuse me, told him of this conversation. He said, okay, Gordon, if that's what you want to do, then let's just do it. He sent me to the studio to record a bunch of songs with a live band. I recorded some stuff with a live band with this producer named Brian Backus. And it was kind of a little bit all over the place. It wasn't so well organized. Some of it was great, some of it was shoddy, some of it was okay. But it was my experiment with trying to go for my dream. Finally, sat down with Troy and said, Troy, I've been making a solo record. He let me have it as he can. He said, what? And you didn't come to me? And what is this? And what are you doing? And why didn't you come to me? Because Troy and I are old friends. We were friends from way before this project. So in classic friendship form, he was completely authentic, cussed me out. Let me hear what you're doing. So I remember coming to his house and playing 100 songs, literally 100. And he was like, no, that's not good. No, that's not good. This is good. This needs that. Boom, 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 blah, 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 blah. And he was very intentional. And having been a former magazine editor, because I was the entertainment editor at Essence, I understood both creation, but I understand editing, and I respected it. And he went through and starts to say, okay, this is good. This is what you can use of the live stuff, but you need tracks that will complement what you're doing. So he started creating tracks, and we're going to listen to some of the songs that complemented. And then the pieces of the record started to come together. And that's when we called Prince Charles and said, let's have him mix it. And he would organize the sound of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what about PC's input?
My job, I think, was to make sure that the project had a competitive sound. So, I think the project was what, 2004, 2005 in that
Yes.
generation. And I'm always looking at what's going on in the marketplace in R&B music and pop music. listening for things that are very mundane, but producers would probably be understand and focus, the drum sounds, the bass sounds, the guitar sounds, the keyboard sounds, the synthesizer sounds, whether we're going to have horns or strings, whether we're going to have crash cymbals or not. These things are actually part of a vocabulary that gets handed down by records that succeed in any period, because a record succeeds and a lot of producers gravitate toward that and try to do things that are emulative of that. So my job was to understand, well, what are the things that we need to emulate? What are the things that we need to kind of jettison? And what are the things that we need to put forward as innovations? And, at the end of the day, I see music kind of like a canvas, like an artist's canvas. So a note can be a note, but then a note can also be higher on the canvas or lower on the canvas, or to the right or to the left of the canvas or to the center of the canvas. So I'm listening to every single instrument and trying to place it in that canvas. So when you put on the headphones, you can see the picture. We used to say, see the movie or see the picture. They're kind of interrelated. So the aural becomes the actual visual. And when I listen to Mozart or Beethoven, I see things. I see like trees and, no cars because they didn't have cars. I see the thing that Beethoven was trying to convey in his music. And for me, very much when I'm, mixing a project, which also includes some editing pieces, I'm trying to create a sonic thing that pulls people's attention here and over there and grabs them. And somehow it all comes together and gives you that picture. It's really great to have a good producer that has vision. It's really great to have a good artist that has vision, because none of us are infallible. And when you've got, the trio that we had, and we're kind of all weighing in, now I've got a little bit more of an understanding of what's trying to be conveyed, and I can go through the technology and try to convey that.
I like how you describe that an oral landscape conjures and is an accompaniment to a visual spectacular. The two senses are not separate. Not many people talk about that. Because
this generation grew up post MTV.
Well,
pre MTV, everything was, I can see it in my head. If you saw My Girl, you could see a guy and a girl, or I see sunshine and a cloudy rain and all. You could see the rain coming down. You know what I mean? But then MTV came along and actually gave you this is the picture that you will see. And maybe a generation grows up and doesn't foster that ability to see the picture for themselves. They're waiting for MTV to show them what it looks like. I still think that there's a latent, well, at least for me, there's still a latent ability to see an image regardless of what the video looks like. But, I'm not 20 anymore, so I don't know how kids see that stuff.
You're not 20 anymore. You could have fooled us, PC. So speaking of the oral canvas, excuse me as I summarize R&B through the decades, but again, if there are any holes to fill, please help me fill them out. But in summary, we're talking about, let's say, 80s to the 2000s R&B as people consider it musically speaking. So 80s, we're looking at more synth heavy productions. 90s we have hip hop soul. 2000s we have more club centric sounds. Did I miss anything? So
no, that's brilliant. And to tell the truth, I think the most important's not the word, but the period that saw massive innovation, things that had never been on the planet before, was the 80s. At the beginning of the 80s, you got the drum machine. Now we had the synthesizer in the 70s, but the 80s, the drum machine starts to point us towards digital audio. And from the drum machine, then there was an integration of drum machines and synthesizers. And then by 87, the sampler came in. And a lot of, and plus we had FM synthesis in 83.
That's right.
So from 80 to 87, a lot of the core of what would become the creative tools, the sonic tools, formed, and they kind of really blew themselves out in the 90s and had kind of grown up into the 2000s.
Thanks, PC. So let's talk about you guys, PC and Troy, as co-producers. You're from slightly different generations. Oh, PC only a year apart from Troy, I'm sure.
But he's so fly.
Sorry, God.
But PC is so fly. He's forever young. Timeless.
Forever young. That's my jam.
PC is only 28 years old.
Yes.
So the two of you, when it came to co-producing Gordon's album, and Gordon's given us an idea of his expectations and what he thought took place and how he saw his album being shaped by Troy and PC. But as far as you and Troy were concerned, what did you see as your vision for his album? And did you notice any differences in your methods? And if there were any, did these deter you from your common goal? Or maybe they were actually more beneficial to your common goal because your methods were different? PC and Troy, either of you can begin.
So let me start, and then I want Troy to take it. But for me, as a role of an engineer, I'm in service to the producer, and I think if you were to look at those two jobs, the engineer and the producer's job is to find the innovation, and the engineer's job is to make sure that the innovation lives within the construct of the standards of level and EQ tolerance and things like that. So I probably did weigh in, but only because I am a producer, but more so, with what rhythms are chosen, what sounds are chosen, that I think that's primarily in Troy's hands. And now how that's preserved in the song, then I've got to figure out whether I'm going to over compress it or over EQ it. But basically the structure and the sculpture of the sounds we would work with, I would say, is in Troy's hands. And Troy, I'll let you take it.
So for me, let's just go back to the initial conversation when Gordon came to me, and he's right. I was like, how are you gonna do this? And we've been working together so much. Like, we got songs. We got a lot of songs. We've been working with Patty, and like, how are you gonna do this? And it just didn't make sense. And so I'll definitely let him have it for sure.
For sure.
Because I know ultimately, I met Gordon at an open mic. I think it was, what was it, the Tuesday one? The first time I saw it, Chad's and Wilson's. And I remember because Carl Thomas knew you already.
Yeah.
And I remember when you got up there, you sang, I don't remember what it was. And when you sang, I looked at Carl. Carl was way down on the other end. And I looked at Carl, like, who's that? And Carl was like as to say, listen to him. And so I met him that night. And then I think I remember approaching you and giving you my number. And then you came to the studio in Brooklyn.
Yep.
So we had been working since then. And so when you talk about being an artist, I'm like, okay, so how are we going to do all these songs for other people? And then you're an artist and we don't do songs for you. So when he played me everything, I knew I'm not necessarily a live producer, but I did know that he wants to be in with his peers.
Yeah.
He wants it all sonically to be in with his peers, and his peers are not doing a lot of live stuff. So you're going to have some regular tracks that we do for other people. Right. That we were already writing for other people. So I knew that okay, if you're gonna do this, it has to be, you have to sound right along. You don't want to sound outside of. And so that's where that was my perspective starting then. And then going with his array of music knowledge, and he just knows everything from Stevie's. He's like me. Like, we know the album cuts, we know the lyrics, we know the instrumentation, we know the arrangements, the background vocals. We can both hear all the little intricacies. And so I'm like, there's no way in the world you can know these things and we can't do it with you.
Right.
So we do it on everybody else. We have to do it on you. So making sure that everything is so that the engineer can just press open the file and mix.
Yeah.
That's always been my thing. So I'm going to be hard on Gordon, as I was, making sure every note every harmony, everything is on. Because Gordon is a freestyle
Yeah.
flower of a singer. And so that's good for live. And I've seen him live, but I'm like, no, Gordon, no, 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 no. No, we gotta be constructive. Yes, we gotta, bam, it's not live. You can't just freestyle the note. You know what I mean? You gotta give the fans the melody and boom, what is their note? What are they singing while you're singing? So I was definitely making sure that he stayed right on when it comes to recording, because it's called recording artist for a reason.
Yeah.
People don't think so, but it's called, he's a recording artist, which means he knows how to record. So I was just so hard on him because it's like Gordon can be hard on everybody else, but he can't be hard on himself. So I had to be Gordon and Troy Taylor all at one. And that's why it was so big of a dynamic. Because I'm like, Gordon, you don't hear that note? Anybody else, you would have told him to do it again. You know what I mean? Like, kind of thing. So it was just really, it was really intimate. It was really hands-on.
Yeah.
And I knew that Charles was going to take it from there, long as I give him everything that makes sense. I wouldn't want to give him, he shouldn't have to figure out, so what are these vocals over here doing? What's this over here doing? Is this muted or is it open? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he should just be able to open and mix. And I've always been conscious of that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for
Can I
this. Oh,
Can I say one little thing? I remember at one point, I would get on Troy's nerves so much that he'd be like, okay, Gordon, sing and leave. You're like, sing your parts, go to your parents' house, or go to lunch and go. He would literally kick me out of my own sessions. And then at one point, I remember, at one point, he just didn't have me leave. He was listening to something and editing something. It's like, oh, no, this is terrible. So he's talking there about me in front of me. And he was behind me. And I remember it's like standing behind him. And I was just thinking like, you know what? He's not even seeing me right now. I could just grab his neck. He would see me. I could just choke him. I mean, but it was beautiful, friendly fire, as real friends can talk to each other with all that honesty, all that transparency, and all that commitment to each other's greatness. And that's rare. You don't find that.
No.
And I'll tell you, the most beautiful blessing thing about those sessions is the thing that got on my nerves the most, is that Troy, with all his friendly fire we had, sometimes other people who were students and mentees of Troy's were there watching this heavyweight battle and me mostly losing. But Claude Kelly, brilliant songwriter, who wrote one of the songs, Violins, that ended up being on my second album with Troy that I recorded. I think that was Claude's first recording ever. Trey Songz, who was living in Troy's house as a 17-year-old kid or 15, I don't know, young kid
16.
being mentored, was in what Troy calls Troy Taylor University. He was there watching us write and record these songs. Troy, and sometimes if Troy needed a break, even a young Trey Songz would record me. So when I look back on what we were doing, it got on my nerves. I hated it because I was very nervous recording for the first time. But looking back, the greatest gift that you gave me, Troy, was the gift of showing me what mentorship really looks like. And both you, just as Whitney spoke vision into me, by making me the guinea pig, while all these other brilliant young geniuses who went on to touch the world in multi-platinum ways were there, and it was an incubation. It was a training ground for them. And you brought out the educator in me with the work I do now as a vocal coach and in artist development with people like Tyler and so many other artists. I would have never seen myself in that capacity without looking back and seeing the value in the valley, to quote Ayanna Van Zandt, that people were learning. And you were very intentional, like, these are young people that need to see this. Like, they need to see Troy Taylor and Gordon Chambers working together. Charles, when I wanted to add some live recordings, some live keyboards, certain things, I invited a young Raymond Angry. Remember, Raymond had just moved to New York. To those sessions when I was mixing to add keyboards, Raymond Angry has gone on to produce Christina Aguilera. He's a member of the Roots. Raymond, he had just moved to New York. He's this brilliant keyboard player. And you would come and let him do his things. And then I called Roy Hargrove. I wanted a trumpet solo. I said, but I don't know any trumpet players. I said, I know Roy Hargrove, but I don't know. I'll never get Roy. Charles was like, call him now. And I called Roy Hargrove, genius, rest in peace. He came right to the studio, recorded not only a solo, but all these horns on My Valentine. And then I was like, okay, I'm there in the studio with him. He's just zoning out, creating these beautiful, lush horns. And I said to Charles, I said, I can't pay him for what he's doing right now. I asked him to come and play one solo. And I said, plus, I'm watching the clock. I'm like, plus, this is going to be extra studio time with Troy. Charles, you said to me, Gordon, this time is on me. Let that man do his thing. He's a genius. Let him do it. He's happy. Let him play. One more story. When we were doing that same track, My Valentine, I said, you know what this song needs? Because this is a song that Carl Thomas had recorded before me that I wrote for Carl, and Prince Charles had mixed the original version on Carl's first album on Bad Boy. You said, Troy, you were listening to it. This is one of the live tracks. You said, you know what this record needs? He said, what? He said, it needs Carl. I said, I'm not calling Carl Thomas. He said, I'll call him. And you called Troy, you called Carl, who was our friend and neighbor. And in the middle of the night, Carl woke up and we brought the files over and Carl sang on the record. And then I ended up having this record that was guests, Roy Hargrove, genius, rest in peace, and Carl Thomas, living legend. So you guys were thinking out of the box and about how to make this record more beautiful, more lush, and how to really utilize relationships in a way that I was very shy to do. So I didn't want to just add that to that story.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, there are a few questions I want to pick from what you've just offered us. But at this point, I want to say, remember I was talking about our viewers coming from around the world. We do have someone from the Netherlands, and Dread Rat, I want to bring you into the stream and say hello to you. He says, good afternoon from the Netherlands to everybody. And he goes by the handle Dread Rat. But once in a while, our European guests would appear and join us in support of music and chat. So, Dread Rat, thanks again. It's so nice to see you. It's quite marvelous how, we have the internet and we can get together from around the world, different time zones, but, it may be sunshine here, the moonlight there, but we are able to get together and enjoy and partake of similar likes. And especially about talking about music. So, all right, I want to jump to something that Gordon brought to our attention, and that is mentoring. And Troy, I know that one of the jobs of a producer, he's here as well, but this question's for Troy, is to coax the artist to deliver their authentic best. And God mentioned Trey. He was one of the young talents you were mentoring at about the same time that they were. Gordon was recording his album, and in fact, both Trey and Gordon's inaugural albums were released in the same year. I've checked this, so I'm quite certain it was 2005. Trey and Gordon are of different ages, and their albums certainly had different sounds, as far as I was concerned, or my ears told me. How would you describe the vision you had for each of their albums, and why? At that point, when you were managing their albums, what vision did you have for each of them, and why?
So with Gordon, it was following just who he was as a writer, as a songwriter. Right. And he had so many songs. I know when he played me I'll Miss You Most, I remember saying that needs to be on the album. Right. That has to be on the album. That was, to me, to this day, that's one of his most beautiful songs to me. Like, I love that song to this day. So, and then Trey, young, had each one of them had to be among their peers. Right, and they had different peers. So Trey's young, he's a teenager. He's got to be among, Mario, Usher, and B2K. And so I had to make sure he fit with them. And I had to make sure Gordon fits amongst his peers and all the people he's worked with. So it was easy because they were different dynamics in age range.
Gotcha. So let's look at, a couple of tracks from his first album, Introducing Gordon Chambers, and I've got on display a track list from Discogs, and I'm displaying track 1 to 7 right now. if you do have a separate device and you're looking at it, you will see, if not already in a few seconds, this track list. The one, Touch You There. Gordon shared with us during his last interview with us that it was initially intended for Usher, but it's included as the title track of his inaugural album. And Gordon described it as a little bit more quote-unquote risque than his usual material. Why was this song, Troy, chosen as a title track for his inaugural?
It's the opening track, actually. It's the opening track. Yeah.
Opening track.
Yeah, the opening track. I just thought, you know,
Opening
it's
track.
the Marvin Gaye. It's like, it just comes on and gives you, again, Gordon is a live performer, more so. And it needed to have the essence of me seeing Gordon get on stage with the band playing and you know, how he does at Chaz and Wilson's. And I just, that's the way I envisioned it. And it just needed to come on, and it had the Marvin Gaye little, you know, essence and nuances of a Marvin Gaye. And it just had not live, but insinuating live. And just arrangements, the bridge, the escalation of the track and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then Gordon's backgrounds and harmonies and
your
so
backgrounds.
Yeah, and my backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
I think that this, to me, to start that whole project off with that was like a bam, it had a bam factor. Like, okay, you know, so yeah.
So you think it's important for the first track in an album to actually give you that kind of, you know, hit in the chest and say, well, I really like this artist. I can't wait to listen to the rest. I'm asking because, you know, my young friends, they tend to consume music from Spotify or places like that where they pick and choose what they want to listen to instead of starting from the beginning. But I'm like you. I write an album, or I conceive an album like a story where there is an introduction and it takes me through the journey all the way to the end. And the end for me is also a hit in the chest. You know, I want to leave the listener with, I really enjoyed that. But that last one was just as good. What are your thoughts about, you know, having a title track giving you that bang factor, knowing that, you know, people these days, they go from a random playlist even. You could even, you know, randomize the tracks from an album instead of listening from start to end. What are your thoughts on that?
The start of it is when the record stores started having the preview. I think that was a good thing and was a bad thing too. I used to shop in the record store even when I was younger, just going off the titles of songs. Ooh, that sounds like it's going to be crazy. And just looking at the albums and looking at the producers and writers and getting it based off of that. And so my mind wouldn't think of what does it sound like before I buy it. It would just be like, oh, this gotta be good. Probably why I have so much music, because I would take chances off of it. And to me now, the kids, their phone, their finger is on skip.
Yeah.
While they're listening, they're literally like, they'll go, oh, that's dope, skip.
Yeah.
I don't like that one. Few seconds. It's like, you didn't even hear the song. No, the beat's cool. So it's kind of like, wow. Back then, we were still before the phones and computers. We were still before that. So, you know, opening up with Touch You There, it was like, okay, that's to draw people in. It was still old school in that way of thinking. So that's what I was going off of the most. Still then, we hadn't converted over to where we are now.
Yeah, I understand. PC, I wonder if you have an opinion on that, seeing as that you deal with young people, but more on an academic side than, let's say, I know you're working with, you know, recording artists, but you also have access to the young folks who are studying to be. Do you see this pattern that Troy has mentioned, or that I just, you know, discussed out of concern?
Well, see, I work at a music school, so the kids that I teach are a little bit different from the average consumer. Average consumers will be click, 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 click.
Yeah.
My kids don't listen at all to modern and contemporary music because they know so much music. They think that they're gonna create something that we've never heard before. And my job is to be like, yo, chill with that. Go listen to Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Go listen to Stevie Wonder. You know,
Yeah.
go listen to Elton John. And as we, if you're really listening to what we're talking about and what we're saying, I mean, I've already heard Troy mention a whole bunch of songs that he was listening to and looking at. I remember me and Gordon being in the studio listening to Marvin Gaye and saying, listen to the reverb that Marvin Gaye is using, listen to the vocal on the right, listen to the vocal on the left. We are not just fans of, but we are students of great productions, great performances, great records. And a record has nothing to do with something to do with what's written on the paper, but a record is a sonic experience. So I do agree with Troy that there are these periods that happen, like 2004, 2005, when we were working, auto-tune hadn't grabbed hold yet. Because Akon kind of exploited, so autotune begins in 97, Akon exploits it in 2004. T-Pain shows you the full breadth of what autotune can do in 2005, and then everybody kind of got a little bit more comfortable with it after that. So the technologies didn't stop with the drum machine and the synthesizer and the sampler. Then it came to the digital audio workstation itself, autotune, Melodyne, and of course now we're stretching into AI. So my job is to, I feel like my job as an educator is to put in perspective what creativity really looks like. And what creativity really looks like is a synthesis of those things that you've learned. So if you've learned 3 things, you'll only be able to bring 3 things to the table. If you learn 1,000 things, then you'll be able to bring 1,000 things to the table. And now sorting through and blending the variations of those 1,000 things is what real innovation looks like. Innovation doesn't look like, well, I'll just ignore what everybody else is doing and just do me. If I had a nickel for everybody that said, I don't sound like anybody else, what I'm doing is totally different, I would be rich. But everybody has formed their musicality from something that they really adored and appreciated at one time in their life. And then they learned music and they stopped adoring and appreciating. I try to get that adoring and appreciation back for them as an educator.
Thanks, PC. I'm guilty. As a young person, I was one of those. So I can identify what you said, and I see in all my young students as well.
I remember myself, yeah.
That's interesting. Thanks, PC. Troy, back to you about the track, Touch You There. I see that you're listed as programmer and producer. Can I assume that this meant that you were like playing and sequencing into a DAW situation?
Yeah, I did the whole track. Yeah, I did the whole track and programming, keys, drums. Yeah.
But it's probably an MPC, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yes, MPC.
Oh, it was an MPC, yeah.
It was an MPC?
The DAW thing was kind of where everything would end up. But
we went. Oh my God, no.
On the MPC.
MPC, JV80, JV2080, D550. Yeah, we were still outboard gear. We were still hands on.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So my next question as part of that is, I know you had a demo for Usher for that song. Did you recreate something for Gordon? Or in collaboration with Gordon, or did you go, well, let's stick to the original, but we'll just have Gordon's vocals reflect Gordon's style, if you know what I'm saying?
Because I did the demo to that, right? It was a song already that I had.
Yeah.
No, I think no,
you did it. Yeah.
No, I wrote that. Never Fall in Love.
No fighting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No,
Never Fall in Love was a complete song. That was the last song that we recorded. When the album was done, you're like, you know what? The album is solid, but you need this.
Yeah.
So, but no, Touch You There was a track that you had, and Usher was looking for songs, and you just said, write to this. Right. So I just wrote to it, and I think we pitched it to Usher, but we didn't get a bite on it. Right. And you were like, you know, you should put this on your project.
Yeah, because he had already did the demo. Yeah.
It wasn't intended for me, but it made perfect sense once the record started to form itself, and it did have a very much a Marvin Gaye kind of vibration and energy, it made perfect sense because it was a Marvin Gaye-esque kind of, it was a Marvin Gaye interpolation, I guess is the word. So, and it made perfect sense to sing it live. But no, it wasn't intended for me, but it was a happy accident, as was Never Fall in Love, the track number 2, which was the only song on the record that I didn't write. But when the record was done, you're like, okay, the record is strong. However, I think for something that's radio friendly, you should do this song. And I loved the song the first time I heard it. I'm like, this is just beautiful.
Hey, who wrote Never Fall in Love Again?
Glenn Lewis.
It seems that
That's right, he did.
you co-wrote it with Glenn Lewis. Let me just bring up that track list again. Here we go. Never Fall in Love, Glenn Lewis and Troy Taylor.
I think you told me that it was a song that you and Glenn had worked on.
Right, and he wasn't using it.
And he wasn't using it.
Yep.
But you played it for me, and because it was jazzy, it was R&B, it was commercial, but it was jazzy. It had these jazzy chords. When I first heard it, I loved it. I was like, this is just like, it was a song, whenever, that I didn't write it, but I felt like I did because I loved it so much. But then it was like, the challenge was how to sing it, because when I started to sing it, I wanted to jazz it up. And you were like, no.
Yeah, remember you mentioned that in your interview, and you were saying that Troy suggested that you try and stick to the melody, please, no riffing or runs.
I did not want to.
And I'm curious, Troy, why you suggested this to Gordon, who has such a lovely way of ad-libbing and doing all those riffs and runs, and you want more, but Troy goes, nope, you're not going to do it for this song. Give us a reason.
At the end of the day, when we're doing albums and songs for people, it is not about you.
Okay.
And Gordon is creative, so Gordon wants to everything he's hearing in his head. My thing is, I'm listening for homie over there that don't sing at all. Is he gonna want to sing along with it, or is he just gonna sit and listen? Nah, he sings good, but he's just listening. He's not singing along. And one thing I noticed about over the years about Motown is that the melodies were so infectious and so straightforward that even everybody felt like they can sing. They're going to grab their brush, they're going to grab their thing, and they're going to sing along, thinking that they are sounding like them, but they don't, but they feel like they do. So that means, what did Diana Ross do? What did the Temptations do? That melody made you feel like you could sing along. So all the riffs and all of that stuff just makes people want to just be quiet because they can't do all of that. So my thing is, I don't want to alienate the average consumer. I want them to always be able to sing along. We'll do all that other stuff in the ad-libs while the melody is going. Because I do respect the singer. I do love runs. I do love harmonies. So I find the pocket for the stuff for the singer to feel like he's singing, he or she is singing. Because ultimately, people who can sing, they feel like, that sounds boring. Okay, I'll find a spot for you. But do not override this melody. Do not sing over the melody. That's for the consumers. Stay out of the way, and we'll find pockets. So that was the main thing, just making sure that the ad-libs don't go over the melody, so the fans can sing that, and you're doing that.
That's very interesting. I also noticed on the album, it's particularly what's made known in the track list is that you had different people doing the backing vocals instead of the singer himself. Well, in this case, Gordon. Is there a reason why you do that? Because, I noticed on track 3, Slipping Away, you were the vocal producer on that track. So hence this question, why do you pick different singers for the backing? Whereas, most people are quite used to singing their own backing vocals. It does lend a nice quality to it, don't get me wrong. I really appreciated that they were different voices when I paid attention. It was my time to analyze whether I liked it or not. I actually did like it. Appreciate it is the word. But I wanted to know from you why you did that. You could have easily told Gordon, no, it's time for you to do the backing. but you did not do that.
Uh,
Or PC, I don't know.
so
One of you is responsible for it.
no, because see, again, me and Gordon, we love the same artists. We grew up on the same type of artists. We love the same type of music. We love the same album cuts. We love the same harmonies. We love so to me, going back to like Luther, Aretha Franklin, uh, they had their background singers.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't
yeah,
always them in the background. Aretha did her backgrounds, but back then,
yeah.
when she had what was the Sweet Inspirations or something like
Yeah.
that? And Luther, he had Whitney's mom in his sound,
Lisa Fisher.
and Lisa Fisher, like he had his a Fonzie Thornton, like
Yeah.
he had his people to accent and to complement his vocals. So though Gordon can do his backgrounds, and Gordon knows how to change his tone so that he's not singing the same way as his lead, which a lot of people don't know how to do. He could soften it while his lead is this and his airy here. I think sometimes switch it up. Let's not make it sound the same all the time. And so it's usually that.
And for me, some of it was spontaneous. Like when we met Claude in your basement, who was another writer that Troy was mentoring, he had this beautiful voice.
Yeah.
So I ended up recording the song Violins that Troy and Claude wrote for my second record. And I told him, I said, Claude, I love this song, but I don't have money for violins. So I told him, I said, I will put this song on my next album when I can afford violins, because it is that beautiful and it deserves it. But I said, but I'm going to do some backgrounds on this album. Do you mind singing some backgrounds? And he ended up singing backgrounds on Slipping
Yeah.
Away. So Claude and I just developed a friendship through meeting in the basement of Troy's studio. And then when I got ready to do the second record, I said, I needed the files from Troy. I said, and I called Prince Charles. I said, listen, there's this beautiful song that Claude, who went to Berklee School of Music where you teach, called Violins, that I just love the song. It has violins. You're there at Berklee. Can you help me figure this out? And you found some students at, not Berklee, but I think the adjacent school.
New England Conservatory.
Yes.
Yeah.
You figured out like 12 students, and we went up there and you figured out the whole thing. I could afford it. I brought a videographer. We made this beautiful video of the recording of it. But then again, it was just organic of meeting people at the time of the making of the record that were just brilliantly talented. It's interesting when people ask me, "Oh, do you go back and listen to music you've made?" Really, very, very rarely.
Really?
But very rarely. I mean, but when I do, if I happen to, and sometimes it's because somebody else plays it,
Okay.
what I remember is what I always remember is the time of making it, the feeling of where I was, the relationships, the friendships, when we were cooking it in the kitchen. And at the time of the kicking of the kitchen of this recording, there were ingredients that came in the way of talented people that were just in the orbit and relationships. And that's what blessed the record. And one thing that I love when I listen back, like I said, it's hardly ever, but if I happen to have a chance to listen back to that album, what I'm listening to is never me. I'm not listening to me. I'm listening to Claude Kelly's backgrounds. I'm listening to Troy's tracks. I'm listening to when Troy sang the backgrounds, those lush backgrounds on the bridge of Touch You There. I'm listening to Glenn Lewis's beautiful writing and his backgrounds that you kept for that song. I'm listening to Sarah Devine, who was my friend. We ended up just having her sing spontaneously. I asked her to duet with on Still in Love, which was a track that you produced. I'm listening to the guest stars because just like Troy said, when I listen to a Luther album, I'm not always listening to Luther. I'm listening to Lisa Fisher and Cissy Houston. When I'm listening to a Whitney Houston record, I'm not just listening to Whitney. I'm listening to the Narada Michael Walden production style, or the Diane Warren songwriting. So my favorite recordings do have a sort of cast of characters that give the albums, whatever the genre is, a plushness and a richness of sound that I love so much.
Thanks, Gordon. So R&B, sampling and referencing other songs, so I'm just reading from my script now, is a common compositional element of, if not fundamental to R&B. And this is true of track 3, Slipping Away, which we kind of talked about, which references 80s British New Wave, Spandau Ballet's song, True. Did this song, Gordon, this one's for you, have a special meaning for you? How did you select it?
I worked on that song with another producer. The first demo was with another producer who he sort of replayed it. And then I wrote the song to his version of it, but I played it for Troy, and Troy was like, I don't like this. He said, he probably said it more colorfully than that. Not profanely, but more colorfully. And it might have been like, that's whack. The song is great, but that's whack. He said, you need to just actually do the sample. I said,
I was going to ask, was it sample or recreated? Or part sample and part?
But the original demo of it was not, it was somebody replaying it, and it was much slower.
Right.
And you were like, no, this is a great song. Yeah. But what makes this song great is that it's referencing the actual sample. So just sample the sample or just replay, and you make the track just, more organic to the real thing. And it was the right decision. It was a great decision. So, yeah. And also, like, that references that 80s, time of synthesis that Charles was talking about in the evolution of pop songwriting, like that, because I think Spandau Ballet, I think that was 80s.
Yeah, 83, I think was it when it was released, the song,
like
the album.
I was born in 1969, October 19. I'm really a 70s baby because I was born in October 69. But the time of my life when I started to write songs was, in the 70s, I was hearing songs playing, songs on the piano, like in classes and stuff like that, in music class. But when I started to really write was more so in the 80s, as a teenager. So I'm listening to all this great 80s songwriting. Like there's, it was an interesting time in music because there's a lot of synthesis, but there's a lot of great pop songwriting happening then.
Yeah.
So that track reminds me of a time that influenced me of when I first started to write. It's almost a tribute to that particular time.
Yeah,
in a way.
That's true in terms of the innovation that PC and Troy were talking about earlier on as well, of the 80s, what the 80s gave us. Speaking of vocal production, I'm curious, you and Troy, Gordon, you and Troy, why you decide to hold on to the R's in the song, the that part. Why did you include that in Slipping Away?
We got the melody. You got to keep the melody. You got to.
Because it's a very recognizable part of the song, isn't it? And most people would, when they hear it, they go, oh, I know that song. But the R's have no lyrics. It's just a beautiful melody.
Beautiful.
That's how the original way goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's how the original goes.
Yes.
And did you ever hear that story that Allie Willis has given, talked about when she co-wrote with Maurice White, when she wrote September? She was a young aspiring songwriter, a brilliant lady, and she was asked to co-write with them. And she wrote these lyrics, and it was, that was in their demo. And they like, we love what you were writing, but that part has got to stay, the body. And she was like, no, that can't stay. I need to find lyrics for that. She said, and they were like, no.
Yeah.
Right.
That body is what makes the record pop.
Yeah.
And it went against everything she thought. She said, but it's supposed to be a song. I need to find lyrics. They're like, no. We love everything you've written, but the body stays. And she's like, they body yada that thing is Yeah.
My philosophy on those, I call them nonsense lyrics, but they're not nonsense. What they are they are international.
Yeah.
When you take a syllable that can be articulated by somebody who speaks Portuguese, Spanish, German, so forth and so on, you create an international aspect for your composition. And every time I hear the nonsense lyric, I think of being at a 60,000 seat venue and go, all right, now this is your part. You're supposed to sing this. If you didn't understand anything else I said, you can sing body out.
Yeah.
So I look at those type of syllables in that way, like that's a kind of an international contextualization for the song.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much. PC, since you're so vocal, this next question is for you. As mix engineering introducing Gordon Chambers, which includes performances from live band to programmed arrangements, what were your goals as producer mix engineer? Were you going for a particular era, speaking of era, and or vibe, or maybe both, or something else maybe?
I think at the bottom of it, when you have live instrumentation on the same album with artificial instrumentation, there is a feeling that you can get from either one of them that comes from where in the frequency spectrum it is. If it's a low instrument, if it's a mid instrument, if it's a high instrument. So just trying to find where those things intersected is part of the job. Not that I'm trying to make things sound like each other, but I'm trying to give you the same kind of resonance, you know, in the chest. Like if you heard it at a club, if you heard it on the radio, just trying to find where is the through line between these instruments, the arrangements. So that's primarily what it is. In terms of the generation or the, you know, the time period that I'm looking at, I'm always now. Even in 2025, I am in December 15, 2025. If I mix a record right now, I'm here in this day. So in 2005, I was listening to whoever the artists were then, listening to their reverbs, listening to their EQ, listening to the blend of levels of the different instruments. And I guess you could say, when I think of that, I think many of my students ask, okay, if that's true, how do you know when you're finished?
Yeah.
You know, how do you know this is the right level? How do you know this is the right reverb? How do you know this is the right performance? And that is something that's that's the X factor. That is, you learn, like I said, 3 things or you learn 1,000 things. Because I know thousands of things, there is a target that I'm looking for. And when I get there, I'm like, okay, this is what this song is. You can try to do something else with it, but this is what it is. And, you know, I think that that's just time and really, really giving yourself over to listening to great music of the world. Like if I listen to a great song and that great song makes me feel something, and then I'm working with a Troy Taylor and a Gordon Chambers on a great song, and it doesn't make me feel something, then all 3 of us have to look at each other and say, why is it not making us feel something? So, and the converse of that is we're all trying to get whatever that feeling is. So we'll be like, oh, yeah, really, really love this song. And then we'll put Marvin Gaye on and be like, damn, Marvin's doing the one extra thing right there. Can we get that extra thing in our song? And then I think that's where the high level of record production comes from. We are challenging ourselves in ways that a person might not be interested in challenging themselves because they're like, well, this is good enough. No, good enough is not good enough when you're working with a Troy Taylor or a Gordon Chambers.
Thanks, PC.
And can I add something to that
Of
about
course.
Prince, about that project?
Yes.
One thing I've learned to do is when you're working with great people like Troy and Prince, is you must trust them. You must surrender, and this goes for everybody watching this talk. Trust is the most important thing in a relationship, a musical relationship. Trust that they know what they know better than you know what you know, and surrender. So do what you do, take in their input of what you think that you do well, have them edit you or coach you onto how you can be at your best. But if it's an area of mastery that they know better than you, leave it alone. So one thing I've learned with Charles and other great engineers I've worked with is don't show up at the mix session on time. Send those files in. If it's an 8-hour mix, get your behind there 3 hours, let them have the time to start. And I remember going to the mix sessions, I would never come on time. Send him the files, or maybe just come in time to walk him through it, see everything opens up, and then leave. And sometimes what I would notice is that Charles would take the first portion of the time of mixing and would not be mixing. At first I was annoying. I'm like, I'm paying this man and this was not cheap. I had to put a mortgage on I had to put a second mortgage on this here house to make that album. I'm still in debt, but I believed in my dream. So, I mean, I'd come, I'm like, well, I thought this man was mixing the record. What's he doing? And he was listening. He was sitting there listening. Okay, what's the essence of this record? What makes this record pop? Is it the background vocals? Is it the snare drum? Is it what is it? And whatever that thing is, he's trying to figure out where the magic of this record is and making sure that thing, and it could be a big thing or it could be a small thing, making sure it shimmers. Like, a record I love is Barry White's Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Baby, the cowbell.
Yeah.
That way that cowbell sits in that record. And Ring My Bell by Anita Ward, that boo, whatever that thing is, it's like you're listening to the song. Like you're listening to the song is great, the vocals are great, but it's very often an engineer who will find something buried in the thing and say, that should pop, and let that shimmer and glimmer, and that's where the magic of the record is. So I've seen Prince Charles do this, and I've seen many great engineers, they listen in that way. And that's a way of listening that I, as a lyricist, primarily a lyricist, I'm also a producer, but in a lot of my work primarily as a lyricist, or in this case, recording artist and vocalist, I don't have that ear or that passion to listen to that cowbell for an hour and make it. I could care. I wouldn't say I could care less. That's not right. I do care, but I don't have the mind that can take an hour for a cowbell. But I know that when I get it, sometimes when you're listening to records, it's those little sparkles of something that makes the music magical, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gordon. With that said, viewers in the live chat, if you have a question for our esteemed guests, please put them in the live chat so I may pull them into the stream itself. Don't be shy, please. And this is a live stream, so you know what to do. Behave yourselves. Otherwise, you know what to do as well. Questions in the live chat. All right, so this track 5, let me display track 5. Is a question for PC. Be Happy. PC, you were a programmer and producer along with Andrea Hurd, Rufus Black, and Sherrod Barnes. I think I got their names pronounced properly.
Yeah, wow.
I try my best with names because my name tends to be butchered a lot, so I make an extra effort for other people's names.
Exactly.
So PC, what programming were each of you responsible for? Because I assume producing would have to be, like what we would do in front of the door, maybe an MPC where we'd pick the sound and then play it in kind of situation. Or was that what happened?
I don't remember the full story of this, Gordon, but with the cast of characters on that, it sounds like something that I must have brought to you.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had my production company called Archangel Music, and in Archangel Music, I had Rufus Black and Antonio Fanatic Hurd, and all these other people, and we were trying to do the same thing that Gordon was doing, same thing that Troy was doing, sending songs to labels. Right. So when Gordon said that he was putting his record together, I was like, I've got some things that you might want to listen to, and he listened and he heard "Be Happy," and I don't know if it was "Be Happy" yet, because I think it was primarily the track.
Oh.
And
no.
Go ahead, because I don't remember anything.
It was the track, and and I think it was just the verses. And I think I wrote the pre-choruses and the chorus, but it was the verses. Rufus had written the verses and had sang the hell out of them. But the first verse was "God is trying to get your attention, girl." And I remember just hearing that lyric, like, God is trying to get your attention, girl. Because it sounded like something that I would say to a friend.
Right.
It sounded exactly the way I would talk, like, look, God is trying to get your attention, girl. And the minute I heard that, I jumped, I love that. I have to have that. And the guitars just was like, Sherrod has actually played as a band member off and on in my band for years. He played on the record release. He was the only person in the who was on the album that played actually live on the record release of the show. But once again, it had those guitars. It felt like something I could play live. And I remember you produced my vocal of that, and you were vicious. Different style. Different style than Troy's.
Right.
Both was friendly fire. Troy's was more fiery. Troy's always like, I'm nice, Troy, now, Gordon, I've changed. But you were like, well, you know, your style's more diplomatic. I think we could try that one more time. Just a little bit more. Blah, blah, blah. But you kept going. You wanted me to sing the record. It's very similar to Marvin Gaye. Like, you wanted me to sing. It was on a high key. Rufus has a higher voice than I do. But sometimes when you change keys of songs, they don't have the same magic. And because that song has live guitars, you can't just program it and change the key. So I remember doing that vocal. All the vocals I did with you, French Charles, I remember like where there was a certain style where you need to grunt more. You need to like, you were looking for like the sexy, macho sound of Gordon Chambers, like bringing that. And it was very similar because I remember reading books about Marvin Gaye, and he talked about how like the Motown producers, very similar to the talk about this album, like Marvin wanted to sing jazz. He did this album of like Frank Sinatra covers. He wanted to be like this jazz cabaret man, but they're like, nah, you're gonna sing at a higher key and go for like a more guttural kind of song, more at the top of his range. And Be Happy was very much like at the top of my range. I was exhausted, but you were so patient. But you're like, come on. And I'm like, but it needs a bridge. And he said, no, it doesn't need no bridge. It needs some uhs and some ahs and some like grunts. I'm like, what does this man do? But then again, it's just trust. It's just understanding that you're with a collaborator who cares about you as a person, cares about your success, and sees and is bold enough and honest enough to tell you that he sees bigger for you than what you can see for yourself, but he also sees different for you than what you can see that you can do. And you know what's interesting, Charles, is that over the years, children that I've met, like children either in my life or people, parents who I've met, say, you know, our children's favorite song is Be Happy.
Wow.
Like they're like, when we need to calm the kids down, we'll play like Mike, you know, like look, like right now, y'all need to be happy, and they'll play it, and it will like, you know, it's so you never know who the fan base of a song is going to be. So
you know, the funny thing for me about vocal production is that the grunting thing is true. Like of the thousands of records that I've listened to, many of the ones that really resonate with me, you know, like you know, the Temptations. You got Eddie Ruffin, Eddie Ken. I'm mixing the two up. Eddie Kendricks or David Ruffin, you know, doing that really growly stuff. And then I listened all the way through. Like there's a song recently that's out by Ed Sheeran called Camera. Listen to his voice in there, man. He is just ripping it. It's one of those through lines I've been looking for. And I really appreciate Gordon saying the thing about trust. You bring me to the table, you got to trust I've listened to Motown. You got to trust I've listened to the British R&B scene. When you bring Troy to the table, you got to trust that he's listened to Motown. He's listened to the British scene. He's listened to Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, just on and on. We not only listen, because it's like if you watch a basketball game, you'd be like, oh, it looks easy. They can just shoot the ball and it goes in the hoop. You got to play. You got to play ball. And you can trust, you know, when you bring certain people to the table, that they've not only listened to these things, they've actually executed them. I've tried every amount of snare that you could think of. I've listened to all 17 minutes of Do Your Thing by Isaac Hayes and only listened to the guitar. Then I went back and listened to it only the hi-hat. Then I went back and listened only to the flutes. And, you know, when you get people that are coming to the table that have done that amount of research, as Gordon said, trust that they're bringing that research to bear on your project.
Thanks, PC Gordon. This question's for Gordon because I paid attention and I listened to the entire song of Be Happy and I spotted your referencing your own writing.
Oh yeah.
You had in there. You thought it escaped me, but it did not. You quoted "If You Love Me" from Brownstone. You had the "If you love me, say. If you trust me, do it. If you want me, show it. If you need me, prove it."
Yeah,
So
I remember. Yeah, that was spontaneous because that was in one of the grunting sections.
I wanted to know. Tell us about it.
I have found all the grunts I can think of. But then it was also like subliminally wanting to throw that in there just to kind of like, people who would find this record and would be like, it was like a self-referential shout out to connect the dots. But the beautiful thing about this record is that there were people who knew of Gordon Chambers, the songwriter, from my records, but there were many people who did not. Like this record found its own, and still finds its own audiences of music lovers. And the thing about being an independent artist is it's timeless. Like it's as new as somebody newly discovering it. So many, many people discovered and found this record who had no idea who I was, who had no idea what I had written. They just liked the sound of the record, the warmth of the record, the sort of classic R&B timelessness of the records. And I know that that had to do with them more than me. I know that. I know it because I had sought counsel, trusted the counsel, surrendered the counsel that had a vision that the record should stand on its own independently of whoever you think that you are. It should just sound good and feel good to audiences. And it has absolutely stood the test of the time. It has become considered a classic independent soul record. And one thing that I'm very, 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 very proud of is that when I sought out to make it, I was at a certain crossroads in my life, a midlife, one of my first midlife crises, perhaps. But I was, the older you get, you'll have several. So it was a crossroads of me trying to figure out where I wanted to be in the music industry. Did I have the energy to did I have the stamina to keep putting myself out there as a songwriter with all the rejection? As a songwriter, I have people who are thankful and grateful to my catalog, but they don't know because they've never been to my house. I can take you to my basement and show you like boxes of cassettes and DATs of all the songs that I wrote that I loved just as much as the ones that came out that didn't come out because somebody didn't like it or blah, blah, blah. And at that time of making that record, I wanted to just make an imprint to just say to myself, I matter. My creativity matters no matter how much the industry with a capital I values it or not. I value myself. And it was deeply spiritual for me in a way that probably you guys may know or may have known or may have not. It was very important to me that it be great and that whatever happened with it in the industry, that people could not deny that it was well made and it was not well done. That, whether you or some label wanted to invest in it or not, or blah, 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 you could not deny that it was well made. And that was very important for me to sort of take it a certain piece of destiny into my own hands and said, I can do something that I believe is great without Big Brother or Big Sister, quote unquote, having to endorse it. And, and there's a lot more that I could say about that because then there became the marketing and the promotion of the records and then having to deal with those industries and those entities. And it was very hard. I was not young. I was in my early 30s. But now that as the song says, now that we've found out what are we going to do with it, I had to get on the road and learn how to perform and learn how to band lead and learn how to book gigs. And, there were great moments and then there were terrible ones. I had sometimes really great moments as a performer where I had great audiences. And at sometimes that I gave great shows and paid my band all of my salary and had made nothing or sold enough CDs out of the back of my little bag to put gas in my car and drive myself home. So it was a range of emotions, and they were not all glossy and flossy. There were many, more of them were not than were. But however, for those people that record did reach, and those people who loved it, that was my payback. That was my salary, an emotional salary, because there are the projects that you work on that hit the charts, and there are those who hit the hearts. And, as musicians, we're all musicians. We all have won awards and done our thing, but we all went into this because we were kids who loved music. So many times at Troy's house, we would listen to Michael Franks or the Clark sisters, or, just Troy would pull out, oh, you don't know this. And it was like a laboratory of like, we were making quote unquote commercial music, but listening to all this other stuff, just giving each other tutelage on music. So I say this to the audience watching this, is like, whatever you do it well. Do it where you're timelessly proud of it. Where do it so well, do it to the best of your ability, so that whenever you have to deal with whatever comes thereafter, the heartaches, the pains, or the promotions of it, or whatever happens, you have something that will fuel you and say, I still sing because I'm happy. And I'm happy with what I made. I'm happy with what God brought out of me. And I'm happy that I've recorded it and made an imprint of it, because if it came to me from deep in my heart, it will go to somebody else's.
There we go. Thank you, Gordon, for that. I really appreciate that. Speaking of well-made...
That was a sermon. I feel spiritually exhausted. So anyway, somebody else talk, because that took a lot out of me.
Thanks again. Speaking of well-made work, well-crafted work, I'm going to refer to the next track. Next track is number 6. I'm still mesmerized by your sermon, Gordon. The words are not coming out of my mouth. The next track, number 6, is Still in Love. And it was co-produced by PC and Ken Fambro. And Ken co-wrote this with you, Gordon. And I noticed this again. My analytical ear went through the stuff, and it says, oh, key and chord changes. And lyric, The Memory Still Lingers On, are found on Chaka Khan's And The Memory Still Lingers On. Which is a cover, so to speak, where she sprinkled some magical pixie dust on it. Her cover of Gillespie's Night in Tunisia. For those of you who are not aware of this, please look these songs up. They are beyond well crafted. But anyway, Still in Love sat on And The Memory Lingers On, and I wanted to raise this question because I've been asked this on several occasions, and I've covered what some people consider revered songs, and it's a popular opinion of them that revered works should never be covered or referenced. I think there's this protectiveness they have of these revered songs, and how dare you, whatever it is. And I understand it, they are music enthusiasts. So my question to you, Gordon, first is how did you approach writing Still in Love over a song so famous?
And the song that the track sort of references, it also references that one, but it also kind of references I Can't Help It by Stevie Wonder, written by Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson.
Thank you.
Quarterly, it references that.
Got it.
I'll say this: I'm never in competition musically with anything or anybody. I'm just trying to always do the best that I can do. So when I heard that track, that also I believe, Charles, I believe you brought me that track as well. I think those were the 2 tracks that you found and brought to me. I was like, oh wow, that reminds me of this. That reminds me of this. But I was never in competition with anything. I'm not like trying to I can outdo that. I can write a song that's like, it might be a sample, but it's better than that. It's never, it's I wouldn't even say it's collaboration, because I'm not in the room with Stevie Wonder. I'm not in the room with Spandau Ballet, but I love their work so much that it's in homage. It's in conversation with. As a writer, I'm often writing in conversation with other songs. Like my Valentine is, which is on the album, which is in conversation with Rogers and Hart's My Funny Valentine. So I love songs. And so as a writer, sometimes you will hear me reference, perfectly not plagiarize, but but reference another song because it's just in homage and it's in honor.
I hear you. I understand what you're saying and what you're putting down. I was just curious because I've been delivered these opinions before, and I wondered what you thought as you laid out these various tracks based on some of these references as your first album as an artist. Some people listening to it might know of your songwriting past or your credentials, but some may not. They might just see you as an artist first, and so these questions. But I was also curious.
Let me say one more thing: is that when Charles presented those two songs to me, we were probably halfway or 2/3 in the mixing of the project.
Oh, okay.
And he was listening to the whole thing, and he was like, he brought me those two songs, and he wanted to bring some things that were fun.
Yeah.
And Be Happy and Still in Love were more up tempo, more danceable, and they were fun. Like Never Fall in Love with You and Touch You There, they were more neat. I guess maybe classic R&B or more neo soul.
Right.
These two tracks had a more danceable kind of, and it was like, the record is coming out great, but it doesn't have this, and you are also this.
Yeah.
And so that's why those tracks ended up really rounding out, and in the sequence of the album has like part 1 and part 2. And the second part of the sequence, like after Still in Love, we go to like the more live instrument, we go to like the more like, not somber, not melancholy, but the more ballady type side of the album. So they made sure the first half of the album popped and had rhythm and had energy so that you can make it to the second half. Because sometimes, sometimes if a record, it depends what kind of artist you are. If you're in Adele, you can start the album with Hello. But sometimes sometimes as an album, you want your hello to be sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
And not that anything's filler, it's just a journey. You appreciate a hello if it's more in the middle than it's in the front. So like Troy said, I'll Miss You Most, which is a serious ballad. He was like, this needs to be on the album. But also you appreciate, I think it's track number 8, you appreciate it more that you've sort of been on this R&B, neo-soul-ish, and even with Still in Love, more danceable, clubbish. Like that record played in clubs. In this journey, it makes you appreciate. So sequencing, which those two, they helped me a lot with the sequencing of the album, really makes a difference in how an album gets experienced and how you play it from beginning to end and how much you appreciate where the songs go.
So Gordon was talking about kind of having a balance on the album where you keep people on their toes, maybe give them a little time to rest off their feet and then get them on their feet again. I'm not saying literally speaking, I'm, talking figuratively. PC, did you feel, as Gordon said, that this satisfied the direction you thought he would take for this album, let's say on an A&R perspective?
I think when you jump into a project like this, you start out with a goal, and what you learn from production is that you can never present an artist in their totality from one song. And honestly, you can't even do it for 10 songs. You need a couple of albums. So, looking at exposing who Gordon is over the long run, I think at the end of the album, I said, Gordon, you're going to need at least 2 more of these in order to really expose who you are as a total artist. But yeah, within the album, you do need to sequence an album so that it's got a flow. I feel like in 2025 we're more singles oriented these days.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do lots of singles, maybe you're thinking about your release period as kind of an album. I'm going to release this one song, the second song, and third song. So the idea of sequencing is still not that far from what an artist should be doing to try to expose themselves. Yeah, we had to think about the pace. When are you going to speed up? When are you going to slow down? How are you going to hit them from the beginning to make it so interesting that they'll stay with the album?
Yeah.
So all of those things were really important then. I think they're really important now, but just in a different way. Right now, it's maybe the release schedule of your singles, but the release schedule of your singles is still kind of serving an emotional arc with the same thing that we used to do back with an album.
You just stretch it out. Oops, you just stretch it out a bit. From
Yeah,
single
yeah. The time thing is
suspense.
different. Yeah.
Yep.
On Gordon's sophomore release, we're gonna jump a bit. Troy, you were back on A&R duty, and PC, you returned as co-producer and mix engineer. Did both of you come together and say, shall we base this album on the same ideals as the first one, or should we now project him into the future a little bit? But that's assuming that you can see, speaking of the arc of his career, that's assuming you can see where that arc's going.
So
So what are you saying? Okay.
So for me, real quick, I just listened to Be Happy just before we started this, and I'm kind of blown away by it. I'm like, man, we did that. And that speaks to what Gordon was saying about making things that can resonate beyond the moment, because you've invested a lot of time and energy and effort and a goal state that is a really highly, and I don't like the words good, I like the word highly connected. It can connect with people. And I think that there was a lot of connectiveness that I heard when I was doing Be Happy, which leads into the sophomore effort. And the sophomore effort was, okay, now how do we connect in, what was it, 2006, 2007, whenever it might have been, 2008,
I think.
2007. So now what are the things that we need to do in order to connect? And I don't know, when did Trey come out?
2005.
2005?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I've heard Trey, and what was the song where the neighbors say my name or something like that? Was that him?
Oh yeah, that was 2009.
Oh, that was not okay. So we hadn't gotten there yet, but I was feeling this spirit of the R&B singers were getting a little bit more aggressive, and so we started probably looking at even more aggressive push in terms of, well, what is the subject matter? How can we not flirt with these things but push deeper into it? And I think we had lots of conversations about that for the second album.
Thank you. How about sound-wise? Did you kind of stick with a similar ideal? Or did the sonic materials kind of went with these more aggressive ideas? It had to kind of have a different quality.
As Troy said before, you've got peers. And your peers are speaking a certain language. It's like, if you're going to walk around in Roxbury or walk around in Harlem, you're like, hi, everybody, how are you doing? You can be like, yo, what's up, son? So we're speaking a language, and knowing that language, we have to emote in ways that are similar. The whole thing you were talking about, Brownstone, the concept of familiarity, the Stevie Wonder chord changes, the concept of familiarity. I firmly believe that people resonate with things that they're comfortable with and familiar with. It's just that you've got to know how to get it to them so that it doesn't feel like you're copying, So if I'm influenced by something and you can hear that I'm influenced by it and you like it too, now we're on the same page. And I like that idea of what the creative artist does when they are using references. It's basically a nod to the audience saying, I'm like you, I listen to the things you like, so therefore we're on, we can come together to move forward through my composition. And without that, you're always on this journey of innovation, which is not as powerful as I think people think it is. Innovation is small movements, not large movements. So if R&B is here and you're way over here, you've made too much of a shift. If R&B is here and you do that, that's more in line with what I think is happening creatively for all of us as artists.
Thanks, PC.
Yep.
Troy, did you have something to add?
They saying it
Oh.
all.
So you okay? Got it.
I'll say something about the making of the second record.
All right.
The second record, some of what was used on the second record was we were recording in the same sessions for the first record.
Okay.
And there were songs that I was also finding from people during that time period that I loved. And I was just playing for them like, oh, what do you think of this? And they're like, that's great. And so I think by the time of the making of the second record, I was trusting myself more as a talent finder, so to speak.
Right.
And meeting, like the first track on the second record, the opening track, The Next Time, was produced by a young D. Emile. Who was a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was 16.
He was a teenager. I think he was 15, but I met him and I was like, oh, that's amazing. I want to do that record. Like and he's gone on to be like, has produced, tell me some of D. Emile's credits. Lucky Day.
He's producer of the year.
Lucky Day.
He was up for a nomination. I don't know if he won, but he was up for nomination for producer of the year last year.
Producer of the year. And he, the young Anderson .Paak and his partner, what's his name from Hawaii? I mean,
Bruno.
Right. So they, like, I was starting to take more chances and saying, hey guys, I found this song or producer or person. What do you think of this? And I would run it by them because I want to make sure that now that I've made a record and it's established a certain kind of caliber or a certain kind of, and place in the marketplace, that the follow-up still be its own entity, but a continuation of a certain kind of benchmark of quality. So they also produced records on the records, but they were also a sounding board just to make sure that we stayed focused. So I think of albums number 1 and 2 as almost like, as I remember them, almost like one album in a way. But for album number 2, there were a few more songs that were more straight pop that I had recorded in Europe, Unfair, and If It Wasn't For Your Love. I wanted to represent some of the more international pop side of songwriting that I had done, but also Love Again, which was the track that I actually had Lettucey on. That was also a very unknown producer who had done that track that I met through a friend who had just moved here from France, didn't know anybody in the industry. But the confidence that I had from making my first record brought out something in me in the second record as I could trust myself to find talent, celebrate talent, and give platform. So, so I'm great by you guys believing in me. And I mean this with all my heart. By you guys believing in me, it gave me fuel and fire to believe in others. It really, really, really did. Such that it led to people having their very first album credits ever, including my friend Daniel Jones, who was a very dear, close friend of mine who passed away 2 years ago. His first album credit ever was a track on the Love Stories album. So the confidence begets confidence. So I say this to both you guys and to the listening audience. When you meet talented people and you can feel that they are talented and they are good people, believe in them. Invest in them with your time, with your heart, with your home. So many friends of mine have stayed here at my house, which is called Love Song, as a place of lodging, a place of inspiration, a place of home, of community. I met Ken Penn, who's become a dear friend and brother to me when when you were staying at my house that time. and he ended up writing songs on my most recent album, Surrender album. So these platforms, to make an album, it's not just an album. It's it also becomes a place of community. The beauty of this conversation for me, the assignment was to let's review the album. But the beauty of it is, as I remember it, is all the beautiful people, some of who've gone to glory at young ages, but are still with us. I remember family and community, in the making of these two records. And that spirit stayed with me as I made records 3 and 4, which they were not as involved with. Yes. But the spirit, the blessing of being a blessing continued. And I thank you for that in me.
Thanks, Gordon.
There are people who came my way. It's very emotional. There are people who played in my band, through making these records. So, I would not have had a band, if I didn't have a record to make.
Of course.
There are people who went on the road with me who've gone to glory. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to make music and the community that it makes.
So with Gordon's gratitude, I want to get back to the career arc, which I'm really curious about. And Gordon did explain to us and the viewers earlier on that it may seem very glamorous, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into then launching as you said, Troy, a recording artist onto stage, touring and trying and worrying about the finances, how to pay everybody, or how to make sure you sell enough tickets so you're not playing to an empty stadium or room even, and if there are no ticket sales, you try and give out as many comps as possible so that at least you have a crowd of all the things that you go through just for a career as a performing artist. So I want to go back to that question that I presented to you, Troy and PC, so since 2005, it's been 20 years or so. 20 years, time passes. Would you say, therefore, Troy and PC as the A&R people or experts, so-called assisting Gordon in his career as a recording artist and then hopefully a successful performing artist career, would you say those early decisions boarded his career well? I know there's some things that you can't be responsible for, but insofar as reflecting on what you decided were good decisions 20 years ago, do you think they satisfied and seem satisfactory from 20 years later?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think so. And I think he transitioned into just how as music changed, as the industry changed, it didn't really affect him and his music. He stayed. The body of work that we did is still relevant today. You know what I mean? It shifted into it without sounding, oh, that was before. Like I listen to the songs, it's like, wow. Actually, we're getting back to that. We're slowly coming back to, the kids are discovering chords and bridges and harmonies. So we're coming back to this time now.
Interesting. Thanks for that. PC, any thoughts?
So I'm going to preface this with the music business is horrible.
Terrible.
Amen.
The worst.
Start off there. And for any of us to maintain any sense of sanity, I think the people that really maintain a sense of sanity are the people that understand that the music business is not who we are. We make ourselves whole with our relationship with our music, with our relationship with our distribution, with our relationship with our promotion, our marketing. We make ourselves whole when we put it into perspective. And you cannot, how can I say, you can never fire yourself if you are your own company, and the arc of your company is always whole. It just has distribution deals sometimes, it has marketing deals sometimes, but the whole pipeline of it has a trajectory. And I think once Gordon came to me and said, I wanted to do my own album, this guy that had written all these songs and had all the huge artists, you know, I think we sat down and we had those conversations about, well, what are we trying to do? And my advice to everyone is always, it's about you. It is you, and you will do a first album, you will do a second album, you will do a third album, not because a record company wants you to do it, but because it's what you want to do. And once you're in that place, you have arrived at the career that you were meant to do. You will do the things that you need to do when they make you whole. If it takes you 5 years to do a fourth album or 15 years to do a fourth album, that's what needed to happen in order for you to become whole. So I'm proud of Gordon, and waiting for that next album.
I know. It's been a long time.
PC, that almost made me cry too, what you just said. Yeah.
I'm almost borderlining Sade. Will they ever come back?
Right. I mean, Sade is 67 years old, man.
Whoa.
Sheesh.
Imagine that.
No, I
That's
can't
crazy.
imagine that.
No, I can't either.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
She's amazing.
We all hope that she'll make another record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's an A&R question for PC and Troy, and I'll read for my questions. Artists continue to stay within their brand, also their sound, as their fans expect more of the same. Typically, that's what the behavior seems to be. What would you say is the best way to navigate artistic growth and creative division? Part 1, Part 2. And is a change in course the best way to showcase an artist's versatility? Part 2.
Yeah, you go, Troy.
I think it's really simple. So you find out where the music industry is. And I'll just say, if you have a 10-song project, well, let's say a 12-song project, you dedicate at least 6 songs to what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you dedicate 6 songs to, and I'll say, I'll split that in half.
Okay.
At least 3 songs are creative, something that you just artistically want to do and that has nothing to do with what's out, what you've done before. And then another 3 songs to who you were, who the fans know you as, and so that way they don't feel alienated. Because that's the one thing people go, oh my God, he don't even sound like he used to. Oh, what is this? I don't want to hear him on no 808s and no trap music. I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? So you give everybody, there is a way to give everybody what I know a lot of artists, well, I did that already. I'm like, why can't you still give the fans what they're expecting, plus do is a way to do it. Don't act like you got to do the whole album new. Everything is new. This is where I'm at now. No, they are your fans for a reason. They were there in the journey. Give them familiarity. They love your this, they love your that. So let's have a few songs that have that. So if they don't like nothing else, they like this. Or they want you to move on. Okay, they don't like those songs, but they still on the same album and they can listen to this now. And so I believe in the way of just giving everybody what they want off of a project.
Thanks, Troy. PC, your turn.
I think similarly, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was curious, Troy, if you wanted to touch on that, how you've navigated Trey Songz through that process, because Trey and I were both in your laboratory at the same time, and he was a teenager. Now he's like a grown R&B entity. I just want to hear from you how you've dealt with that with him.
Again, well, the first album I battled with A&R, with the label. Trey was supposed to come out in 2003. Oh. And the album that we had, his first album, it was ready to come out in 2003. However, I had to play the politics of the A&R who thought they knew R&B better than me, but they didn't. And he ended up taking another 2 years, coming out in 2005. Oh. But a lot of those songs were done in 2003. I'll give you an example. I did Gotta Go based off of You Don't Know My Name, Alicia Keys. So if you listen to Gotta Go and You Don't Know My Name, they're the same tempo. It's the same vibe. If you're a DJ, you can mix the two. Just Gotta Make It had the sample, the high. Just gotta make it. Well, that was 2003, Kanye was doing that. So I did it then. So by the time it comes out 2005, the sampling high voice thing is kind of gone down, and You Don't Know My Name is over, and Gotta Go is out. So now it sounds kind of dated, and it sounds like, Troy, you got this kid sounding mature and da da da. I'm like, no, politics of it. The album was supposed to come out 2 years earlier, and I had to deal with that. And so, and then the second album, Trey's second album, was, Kevin Lyles coming in as president of Atlantic, and now I got to please them. But it's still not what me and Trey do. So the third album was, by that point, was them leaving us alone. Hey, y'all need to figure it out. Thank you. Thank you. Thinking that they're teaching us a lesson. Like, y'all need to figure it out. Thank you. That means you're going to leave me alone? Cool. And so we defied the odds, and we put out a mixtape, which wasn't very popular for R&B artists to do, called Anticipation. We released it to the fans and for free, and Atlantic hated it, and they were mad at us. We didn't care, and it worked. And then it set Ready Up, and then from that point on, that was it. From that point, me and Trey just did what we loved. We started noticing people love what we loved. And it became his sound. So we would do certain songs, certain quirky harmonies, certain, Trey would do his, which kind of extended from R. Kelly. So, because Trey's not a runner per se. So I had to instill passion. Sing with your passion and with the facial expressions. Yeah, they're gonna make fun of you, but when they do, they're gonna say, "Oh, that's that Trey Songz." You know what I mean? Which now you have your own sound, and so. He's 41 now. Go figure. Sheesh.
That's crazy.
That's really crazy. And he has his own sound, and he's now Trey Songz. So I just went with the passion of what he and I did together. We had fun. Anytime we had fun, we knew we were on the right track.
So he almost became an independent artist again within a major label system.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
Which basically is what I was trying to say before about you, Gordon. We're all independent artists that periodically, it's like Shark Tank. I love that show, Shark Tank. You come in and you sold 10,000 cookies, right? So Mark Cuban knows you sold 10,000 cookies. He wants you to help you sell 1 million cookies. And you might sell 1 million cookies over the next 2 years if you go into partnership with him. And then that partnership will evolve and become something else. And you might go back down to 20,000 cookies, but you still have a company. You still understand that you have a product, a good product or a service that you're trying to get to market. And then Troy said something about, if I want to bring a project to market, the first thing he said was, I look at what is. A lot of people are confused. Well, Prince Charles, there's so many things out here, I don't know what to look at. Yes, you do. Billboard has been around since 1936. Billboard magazine shows you the sales, the streams, the radio airplay of the most popular compositions in any 1 week. So if people are looking at Billboard saying, well, I don't want to sound anything like Billboard, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot because these people are just like you. Ed Sheeran is a guy who sits there and listens to the Beatles and Stevie Wonder and everybody, and he comes up with the songs he comes up with. Trey Songz does that. Chris Brown does that. We all listen to great music and are trying to pull great music forward. Gordon Chambers can't write hundreds of songs with 12 chords. There's only 12 chords. He can't write hundreds of songs if he's not allowing himself to absorb greatness. How can you be great if you can't recognize great? So there's the creative piece, the technological piece, and then when you get to the entrepreneurship piece, you got to have partners, and you got to have great partners. So if you can find a great producer, you also got to find a great person, a great distribution network, a great marketing network. Do labels suck? Well, yeah, labels suck, but at the same time, trying to do this by yourself is a fool's errand. You gotta have partners. And the more you, when you go to see a film, you see 300 people on that film. In the record industry is one of the few industries that's like, that one person did the song. That's not true. There's a lot of us that are involved with the success of records when they become successful. And the sooner the artists realize that, those are the ones that you see who keep rising and showcasing themselves, and you're seeing them and they're traveling around the country because they understand that it's about teamwork.
Yeah.
Thanks, PC. That was a strong speech. Where's your applause? Here's your applause. We recognize your contribution to the understanding of what we do in the music industry, including how important, and because we've been talking about producing and A&R, how important the success of an artist's career is, partly due to A&R recognizing their talent, nurturing it, and their ability to see the commercial potential and potentially reshaping, or like little pat downs here and there to shape your career to match with your enthusiasm, your talent, and vice versa. It's a two-way street, and I think it's important that people understand that. Often people, aspiring musicians may not realize who they need in their lives, as you said. Who they need in their lives. They think, I'm on this journey on my own, no one else understands me. Nobody understands me.
If I had a nickel.
If I had a, I had a penny,
right?
So I do have a final question or two, because we're getting close to our 2-hour mark, and our guests have to leave very soon. But I've totally really enjoyed our conversations. Here's a second last question, so there are two more. For all three of you, what are your thoughts about generative AI's involvement in song and vocal creation? You're aware there's now this app, I think it's called A Studio, which can recreate a choir, for example, and you can pan in, I don't remember which app it is, you can pan in kind of like step time notes, and then type in the lyrics, and it'll produce the vocal line for you. So with all this going on, what do you think the future of R&B looks like, and the music industry, or any other thoughts you have tied to the fact that we have generative AI in music production?
I don't think I think that greatness, the organic great creators and organic great timeless creation will always find an audience. It will always connect. If people will always, if they have a chance to hear it, they will always respect it. So I don't worry about those things as much. I mean, I'm a performer as well, and I go to a lot of concerts, and people love and will always love to go and see somebody sing their heart out live. And that's something that AI will never, ever be able to do. So it's going to do what it's going to do. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I think that there's been times they thought Miles Davis, or Bob Dylan, once he picked up an electric guitar, that music was over. And once Miles Davis, had a synthesizer or two, or a keyboard, an electric keyboard rather than a piano, that, the music business has been grappling with, this is the next new thing. It's doom and gloom forever and ever. And these waves come and go, and greatness and organicness always lasts. So that's almost
Thanks, Gordon.
I don't see me personally, I don't look at it as a threat. It's just like autotune. Autotune is AI. And so I think that AI will have a world of its own. Like the Grammy-award for Best AI Artist, the Grammy-award for Best AI Song. You know what I mean? I think it's going to have its own section, and it won't interfere with everyone. And if you're feeling threatened by it, then I'd have to say you need to check yourself and see, are you still being authentic and doing your best? Because if you feel threatened by it, that means you're not doing your best, because it can't do you. It can emulate, but it can't duplicate. So to me, it's just going to be it's just another thing that's evolved and it's taken this form. I personally think it's actually a tool, and if you use it correctly, it can be dope. If you use it being lazy and just it could be so I don't feel threatened by it. I find my way of using it, and respect of the natural talent in vocals and beat making. So they still have a ways to go, because it still sounds AI-ish.
True. Thanks, Troy.
It still have that sonic sound.
I think Well, like Troy, I think that it should have its own lane. You know, live music is like Broadway, and recorded music is like film. And when you think of film, we've got these great animated films, you know, Avatar, Mickey Mouse, Bambi, you know, all the. So AI has finally achieved the ability to create full, from using the film analogy, full animation. And even with animation with the avatars, there's still, you know, those great films that are being made by human beings. And there is still a trophy that's given to best animated film as well as to the best actor. So we in the music industry are now coming to terms with the Disneying of music, basically with AI. And Disney's very successful. And AI will be very successful, and it will have a really good lane, and there's going to be amazing stuff created with it, and there's amazing people that are prompting AI to give us all those great things. But there's always going to be the live performer that people want to see, just like Broadway. Broadway still, to the best of my knowledge, still packing the house, and the live performer will need products that extend beyond the 10,000 seat venue, and that's going to be the recorded music. So I do feel like this thing is going to settle, and there are going to be these two houses that we'll live in, and that's probably as it should be, because that's what the technologists have been trying to do since recorded sound first began. And when you think about recorded sound, there's nothing about recorded sound that's real anyway. It's all artificial. You know, when I sing into a microphone, that's not reality. That's captured reality that's now being replicated to me with this artificial medium that used to be analog tape with all the fuzzy stuff going on in it, and then it became digital with none of the fuzzy stuff in it. And then all we're doing is we're trying to capture moments in time. And you capture a moment in time with a Gordon Chambers album, and then you capture another moment in time, and another moment in time, and you've left a catalog and a legacy of greatness from a human being. There will be catalogs and legacy of greatness from artificial intelligence also.
Thanks. PC is just an extension to that question about AI. Troy, you mentioned how you sing 80s or 90s, or maybe not that long ago, maybe year 2000s R&B style sound coming back, kind of like a rotating door. Do you think that's gonna happen with AI music as well? It's now a fad. Everyone loves it. Look what I can do without knowing any music, and it will disappear sometime, and then come back again, and then disappear. Like, oh, in the year 2025, we had the decade of AI music, and then it disappears, and then.
No, I think it's gonna grow, get more and more and more and more.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, we're just getting started with AI. Is just getting started. Like I said, if you're an artist that's lazy and don't have any type of creativity, you're gonna gravitate towards AI, and you're going over there. But everybody wants to be taken seriously. So when you want to be taken seriously, you got to come back over here and do it for real, and do it. You know, that's not going away. Like, oh, you use autotune? Yeah, all right. And we sing live. You know what I mean? Now they're choreographing the auto-tune on stage now to change key with the song as the artist goes. It's really funny, actually, because if the person doesn't change the key with the next song, then I know they got it. It's gonna be atrocious. But I think the bigger AI gets, the more we're gonna really love hearing authentic vocals, and so it's not going to destroy it. It's going to make people want to hear it again. So that's why you got to keep doing it. So while that's doing that, you just keep doing you.
And those, I'll add to that a lot of times those conversations are fear-based conversations, and those conversations are designed to make people fearful. And so, in the words of Journey, don't stop believing. Hold on to the feeling. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I think that, as creatives and creators, our job is to stay in the light. These are trying times, to quote Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. These are rough times. People are dealing with all kinds of, every day you turn on the news, you're in spiritual battle and with just what's going on. So music is healing, music is needed. And those of us who make it, who create it, who write it, who perform it, who teach it, our job is to not be afraid. We have to be the warriors of light.
Thanks, Gordon.
Yes.
Thank
And
thank
I have
you.
to run to my mom.
Yes.
My mama is calling me. And I have
Yeah,
to go.
Gordon needs to go now.
Yeah.
PC, you have any last words before we say au revoir to everybody?
Well, concerning the AI conversation, my last words would be any of the interaction that we have with AI right now will be superseded by the generation after us that has grown up with AI as a normative concept. And they'll be superseded by the generation after them that grows up with the thing after AI that becomes a normative concept. So everything that we love right now is for us to enjoy and for our context. And AI is the precursor to the next generation's ability to enjoy that way of creating in that context, and on and on and on. I wish I could come back 1,000 years from now.
We will have you back in 1,000
everybody
years.
walking around with the little brain implant,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
coming up with the melodies, and the melodies just going through their head in 3D.
There you go.
Yep.
With that said, thanks so much, PC, Gordon, Troy, for putting your morning aside to spend time with
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.
And we totally and
Thank you.
utterly enjoyed having you here, and we hope you had fun too. We wish you exciting projects ahead, but I would like to see you guys back on my live stream again sometime soon, maybe on another topic. Just keep in touch with me. Please tell me what
Definitely.
you're up to. I also have a segment for new albums. If you have an artist launching a new album, we have questions about the album and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, also viewers, you've been awesome. Please like and subscribe this episode if you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you did. Everyone stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. And I
Thank you for
also say
having me.
goodbye to
Yeah.
our guests.
Thank you for bringing together this family reunion. It's been a beautiful
Yes.
day.
And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Gordon.
Yes.
I hope you recover soon, and say hi to
Yes.
your mom. And bye,
I will.
Troy. Nice to meet you,
Bye-bye.
and nice
Bye,
to
guys.
see you
Love
again,
y'all. Thank
PC.
you.
I hope I'll
Love
see
you
you again
guys.
soon. Okay, bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, it's so good to have you with us, and I'm gonna play the outro and have happy holidays, however you want to celebrate your holiday season, and I'm hope it's with family and good friends. Until then, until I see you again, take care.